Hello and welcome to Easy Like a Sunday Morn. I'm your host, Shane Lockwood, and today is episode 25, I believe, and it's September 14th, 2014. Before we begin, I'd like to say thank you to everybody who tunes in every single week, and to those who are listening for the first time. Feel free to go back and listen to other episodes. Add me on whatever social media network you're listening to this podcast through, whichever app you're using, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, or just through YouTube. Whichever one, just click subscribe, click like, etc., etc. It helps to support the show, and it doesn't cost you anything. So, thank you for tuning in once again. Now, on today's show, I've got a fair bit of stuff to go through, but I thought what I'd do is talk about the Royal Adelaide Show. The Royal Adelaide Show has just finished, and what it is, it's like a massive carnival, but it's in the one location. There's so many things to see and do, and it's basically a showcase of everything that the state has to offer. Everybody in the state, businesses and so on and so forth. There's plenty of rides like Ferris wheels and roller coasters and those sorts of, not roller coaster, but those sorts of rides. You know the ones. There are food carts and donuts and candy floss and cotton candy and the ghost train, various other rides and things like that. But they also have, apart from all the other attractions and things like that, you've got your carnival kind of games where you can win, your stuffed animals and all that sort of stuff. But there's other events and things like that where you've got precision driving and stunt teams doing stuff with cars. You've got people that have log splitting competitions and all that sort of stuff. It's a great family fun day out. It goes for about a week in the first or second week of September. In this time around, it was in the second week of September, but it was a really, really great time. I didn't bother to go this year. I haven't been in many, many years. I thought about going, but it is a rather expensive affair. Once you get in, and then you got to pay money for all the rides and things like that. So it's very much like Disneyland, but like on a smaller scale. One of the major draws of the Royal Show is show bags. Show bags are basically a plastic bag that has everything that represents a particular company. So you might have, say, a chocolate company, and they will have like a series of chocolate bars and things like that, and maybe vouchers for discounts on a tour of the chocolate factory or something like that. So, but each of these different companies can promote their goods and services. You'll find there's a lot of Marvel superhero things, Star Wars and all those sorts of different little franchises will have these cheap, plasticky, gimmicky costumes and masks and those sorts of things. But you can get stuff for adults as well, as in like cologne, perfumes and all those sorts of things as well. And it's a great showcase for what the state has to offer, is what I've said before. Cheeses and different kinds of meat. There's all sorts of things going on. But another aspect of it is they will show off, because you've got prize competitions for the best dogs and the best cattle. And the kids can go and interact with like farm animals and those sorts of things. There's different areas. It's all sectioned off to various areas. And there's all sorts of rides and that sort of stuff. I'm not sure whether it's similar to, say, a county fair in the United States, but this is like a brilliant thing. I think it's because it's royal. I don't know how much of the government's money goes into it, but I think the fair bit does. And it's a great way of, if you've got a business, of advertising and showcasing what you're doing, and it's a brilliant thing to do. Now, the show finished on a sour note because one of the brand new rides that they had unfortunately ended up killing an 8-year-old girl. It was one of those things that they spin around and go up and down and make people go upside down and all that sort of stuff. And you know the kind of rides that I'm talking about. Anyway, I don't know the full details, but I do know that an 8-year-old girl was killed. So it's a fantastic event that unfortunately was marred with tragedy. There was an outpouring of support from friends and family, and just passers-by and everybody that was concerned, and they've just poured flowers and whatever else in front of the ride, because they had to close it down for legal reasons and things like that. And I hope that it doesn't mar the show. They didn't close the show completely. They just sectioned off that area. And I hope that they can sort out the wranglings and make sure that ride is safe, tighten up the rules a bit. If it's normally there'd be like a height restriction or an age restriction on some of those rides, and we want to keep these things safe, but accidents do happen, unfortunately. What else is going on? Oh, just a bit of an anecdote. I found a $2 coin on my front doorstep on the welcome mat, and this coin is freshly minted 2014 $2 coin. So it wasn't mine because it's brand new, it's shiny, and I would have noticed that. I would have noticed it straight away and checked the dates, because I always check the coins when you get like a handful of coins. If they stand out, if they're shiny, and the gold coins. What am I saying? The $1 and $2 coins in Australia are like a golden colour. So a shiny golden colour, it's going to stand out. And I picked it up because it wasn't there when I entered the house yesterday. And nobody had knocked on my door. So I'm not really sure where it came from at all. I asked my friend, because my friend went to pick me up that day. And I came outside, didn't see it, the coin. I didn't see it until I came home, and then thought, hang on, did he knock on my front door and check his wallet or something at the same time this coin fell out of his pocket, wallet, whatever? And that didn't happen. So I don't know what's going on there. I don't know where it came from, but I thought, I'm going to turn this into a lucky coin, because what happens is when they mint the coins, they do them in July. So it's not unusual for these coins to be around. They're only starting to come in circulation now, after having been minted a few months ago. So yeah, I don't know where that came from. I don't know what the story was. It might have been a neighbour who knocked on my door at some point when I was out, maybe. I don't know. I'll have to talk to somebody and find out what's going on. But yeah, so I've got a lucky coin for the show. What do you think of that? Who do you think it could be? I think it might be a neighbour. Let's see. Speaking of money, money has been something that I've been thinking about with the podcast, because, and I know a lot of you will probably switch off at this point, but please bear with me. My focus with this podcast is not on money. It never was, and it never should have been. I've been struggling to get this podcast up and out and launched on a regular basis. And the reason I'd been struggling was because I was focusing on money and how I could probably monetize this podcast. Now, I launched it through to YouTube, and if someone clicks on the ads or whatever, then it's monetized that way. And the other thing is that it increases the CPM because of the length of the video once it's gone to YouTube, so they can see overall, he's the length of time that people are listening to the show, we can increase the level of CPM. But the CPM is always sort of random anyway. But what had happened was I'd been joining various podcast groups on Facebook to try and basically get more listeners and things like that. But a lot of them started talking about how much money they were making and all this sort of stuff. And you think, okay, so how do you monetize this thing? How do you get this off the ground? And how do you get the thousands upon thousands of listeners that you guys keep talking about and saying that you've got? But then you find out that what they've done is they've set up a website, and then they're directing traffic back to their website. All the affiliate links, and all these other sponsorships and stuff are going through their website so that they can show potential sponsors and stuff like that how many viewers and things that they've got. And that became disheartening and all this sort of stuff. And it's just thinking, why am I doing this and all that? So what I did was last week I pushed the show back a little bit later than what I normally would have, just to see what the response was. And it was pretty poor in the sense that the people that normally watch the show will normally watch the show anyway, or listen to the show. Those people will tune in and leave a comment and whatever, that's fine. I'm grateful for that. But there's a few others that would have listened to the show, would have left a comment, but didn't because the show was not on the day that they normally listen to the show, which is fine. That's a lesson learnt for me. But the other thing was that because I was focused on money, it stirs you up. It becomes a distraction, and this then doesn't become fun. So I'm bringing this back to me having a little bit of fun with the show. And what I'm going to do is try and get you guys to interact a little bit more, not too much, leaving comments and things like that, leaving suggestions and whatever else in the comment section. That's fine by me. But I'm going to look at the reasons why I was doing this in the first place. And that's last week. I'm looking through last week's notes. Yes. Here's an interesting question actually. If you guys are listening to this, self-help books, have you found them helpful at all, or are they just plain bunk? Let me know in the comments section down below. Self-help books. I might talk about them next week, maybe, depending on the response that I get. Because I've been listening to a lot of Tony Robbins stuff, and some of it's okay, but some of it is a bit woo-ish, a bit out there, a bit sort of too spiritual, maybe a little bit too religious. But then it sort of taps into the whole, The Secret and all that sort of stuff, manifesting stuff from nothing, and no, it's just not good. So I found, thinking about money, it's too disruptive, so I'm going to focus on building a better podcast for you guys, the listeners, because that's why I'm doing this. That's the reason that you guys keep tuning in, because you like the listening experience. So better content, focusing on a bigger audience. Oh, that's something I needed to talk about too. My bills are paid and I'm doing okay. It took a while to recover from the stuff that was going on. I'm slowly rebuilding. My bills are paid. I'm in front. I don't need to go to a soup kitchen or anything like that. So those of you who were expressing concerns about that sort of thing, please don't. I'm doing fine. Thank you very much for asking after me and offering help and stuff like that. I did have a job interview on Thursday, and I was unsuccessful. It was a group interview, and I didn't have a whole lot of sleep, but they made us stand up and tell a little bit of something about ourselves, and in a crowd of like 50 people. And I'm not big on public speaking in that sort of way. This is fine because it's just me and you, and it's intimate, but I can control this. If I stuff up, I can re-record, I can do all sorts of stuff. However, in a live situation where you're being judged and stuff like that, it becomes a completely different story. So I dressed better than anybody there, pretty much. Yeah, I was the only person that were there that wore a tie. A lot of people just said, "Oh, I'm unemployed." The reason this is my name and I'm unemployed. And I went, "No, I'm not going to do that." What I did was I just gave them a rundown of where I had been working. Talk about the university degree, which I think may have excluded me. I think because the job was just for basically being a counter attendant at a petrol station. So it's one of those things where you're overqualified, or I was overqualified maybe, but who knows. I do have some phone numbers to ring tomorrow regarding cleaning up after the Royal Show. See, there's a reason why I mentioned the Royal Show, but I'll have to find out what happens there when I ring them tomorrow. And that's dirty, smelly, horrible work, but it's $20.60 an hour. And I know in the US that works out to be like quite a hefty wage. It's better than average here, but I was getting more when I was working at the Oval. But you can't knock back opportunities. You've got to do what you can. The other thing was that I did ring my employer. I rang the parent company of the people that now clean for the Oval, and what had happened was they said they'd get back to me, and they haven't got back to me. So I will probably ring them back again tomorrow. But I wanted the person that I know that actually works there to maybe put in a good word for me, and say, "Oh, we know guys that because they were complaining that they were short-staffed. Well, if you're short-staffed, give me a ring. I can come in. I know the job. I've been doing it for the last 4 years. Why not get that expertise back? Plus, all the troublemakers are gone. The old boss is gone. And it makes me wonder, because he was a workaholic. And it really makes me wonder, what was the trigger point? What was the thing? Because he'd have to put up with quite a lot of nonsense. What was the thing that set him off for him to walk? Makes me wonder. And of course, I've heard rumours that it's a lot harder now, and you've got to do a lot more with less time and stuff like that. But I think as every now and again, you need to have a bit of a joke and a laugh during your work. When you're at work, you've got to have a bit of a laugh to calm yourself down. Just get rid of the edge. Things don't have to be so serious and stuff all the time. And the stuff that they would send emails and stuff, because I'd be eating a handful of lollies or something when all these guests had arrived and for functions and whatnot. You think, calm down. Really? You get in trouble because I had a mouthful of candy because I didn't have a lunch break. That's another thing. These people weren't going by the union rules and stuff like that. They weren't paying penalty rates. I can see why they're in limbo. You got to obey the law. Really, you've got to obey the law, otherwise you get in big trouble. Now, onto a bit of fun. The latest episode of Doctor Who to air, and I haven't been doing reviews of Doctor Who episodes this season on YouTube. I'm going to go back to doing that, maybe not next week, but the week after, just to get things back on track with my other channel. But this week's show is an episode called Listen, and it's absolutely brilliant performance by Peter Capaldi. He really comes out of his shell. He really plays the Doctor really, really well. It's a great story. It goes into the Doctor's past, and it shows how Clara, his companion, his travelling companion, is a lot more intricately linked to the Doctor. Big sort of reveal at the end and things like that. Very, very, very tightly woven story with a lot of time travel, a lot of jumping back and forwards, hundreds of years and things like that. Brilliant, brilliant stuff, and I really enjoyed it. I think it's a real tearjerker story as well. I think they're the best Doctor Who stories, when we shed a few tears because you realise what's going on. The revelation that there's an in-joke about the Doctor not wanting to be a soldier and stuff like this, because they were trying to force him to become a soldier, and he didn't want to be a soldier. But there's the in-joke is like, oh, he will never be a Time Lord. He will never end up he'll never be a Time Lord with this sort of attitude that he was displaying as a kid and stuff like that. Absolutely brilliant. Brilliant stuff. It really builds on the character of the Doctor as well. Gives him a lot more depth. What else have I been doing? When I haven't been applying for work and just generally, stressing over nothing, I've been playing video games. And it's been a while since I've played a few video games. And the game that I have recently finished, there was two. I finished Skyrim, and Skyrim is one of the Elder Scrolls games. It's a role-playing game. For those of you that are unfamiliar with role-playing games, this one is set in a fantasy setting, in a Renaissance-style setting where there's swords and dragons and those sorts of things. But you can play different characters. You can play male, female, different races, different colours, whatever. And you run around with swords and shields and bow and arrow and various other weapons. And you build up your character, and you can join. You can be good, bad, whatever. Become a thief if you want. You can become a fighter, become a magic user. You can cast spells and do different things. Yeah, it was quite good. The storyline with this one was you had to stop basically this massive dragon from coming back and doing a whole heap of damage. And yeah. And now I've finished the main game, and I'm just going to pick up and do all these little side quests that you can do within the game. And the other game that I finished was Watch Dogs, which is about this guy who is a hacker, and he's got this phone that has this application on it, an app on his phone that allows him to hack into different things, like pretty much anything that's connected to the internet. So you can look at security cameras, hack other people's bank accounts and stuff like that. It's quite good. I've heard a lot of people say that it was like Grand Theft Auto 5 mixed with, well, just with hacking in it, but that's not true. It's a lot deeper than that. The storyline is quite good. The main protagonist is rather boring though. He's rather emotionless, but he turns out to be a good guy in the end and saves everybody pretty much. But in the process, he's pretty much destroyed his whole life, and therefore has to go underground at the end and stuff like that. So absolutely fantastic stuff. Watch Dogs. If you like something different, it's more along the lines of the Splinter Cell games rather than the Grand Theft Auto games. Yeah, there's a fair bit of driving in there in the game, but it's more about rather than being a first-person shooter game, which there is that aspect of the game, but you can, say, hack into a video camera, and you can set off things that attract the guards' attention. You can set off blackouts. You can set off grenades and things that the guards are wearing. Disrupt their communications, and all sorts of cool and wonderful things that you can do in the game. Wow! So this has brought me to about 25 minutes in, and excuse me, I'm just eating a jelly snake. I've just finished off a packet of candy that I got from my local Vietnamese restaurant, and they're pretty good. If you go there towards when they're about to finish, they'll do you like discounts on things that they're trying to sell. Things like dim sims. Dim sims are how would you explain them? They're basically like vegetables and pork wrapped and sort of fried in. They're wrapped in like a batter, not a batter. I'd say a batter, yeah, like in a pastry, and the pastry is covered in batter, and then they're deep fried. I'm not sure what you'd call it in other countries, but we have like an Australian dim sum, and then you have like the Asian dim sum, and they're very, very different. I think that the Asian dim sum has a lot more cabbage in it, whereas the Australian one is maybe even a brand name. I don't know. I'll have to check that out, actually. Something to Google. And this week I'm going to have a code word. Now, I know a few people complained because last week there was no code word, but I wanted to get the show up and launched and at least have a little bit of a show this week, last week. But this week there'll be a code word, and it's become a bit of a feature. It's something that people actually look forward to, and they listen to, and they put up with my voice for the entire half an hour just to hear a split-second code word that's something they can type in and have a bit of fun with. But it's all about audience participation, and that's why I do it. Actually, the real reason I do it is because I wanted to know how the statistics were working in the YouTube analytics, because it was saying that on average, for a half an hour show, on average everybody was listening for 15 minutes. Well, how does that work? It's on average, you see. It's on average, so it's divided in half. Now, some people were listening for a few minutes, and some people were listening for a few seconds. Others were listening for the entire length, basically. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful that people would do this, listen to this while they walk their dog or whatever's going on. Okay, now, 28 minutes. I've got to do some real fast talking. The code word for today is the word sticky. S-T-I-C-K-Y. It's the first word that I saw when I looked over and saw a packet of sticky Lego's tomato paste, but on the back it's got a recipe for sticky chicken drumettes. Interesting. Might have to try them one time. Okay, now if you want to be on the show, because there was no guest on this week's show, you can add me on Skype. That's TheShaneLockwood, TheShaneLockwood, Shane, TheShaneLockwood on Skype. Add me on Skype. Let me know. Send me a message if you want to be part of the show. If you just want to send a soundbite or things like that, saying, I love the show, I love Easy Like a Sunday Morn, you can do so by sending me an audio file. You record it, save it, and send it to me through email. It's Shane_Lockwood@hotmail.com. If you want to send me a tweet, you can send me a tweet on SHAIDO, that's Shido at Twitter, or just look me up, Shane Lockwood on Twitter. But here's the thing. I know that people are listening to the show, and when you click like on YouTube, what happens is I get a little tweet. But I don't know whether you're listening or not. Now, some of you will leave comments in YouTube, which is great, that's fine. But for those of you who've got Twitter, please leave me a tweet saying, I love the show, I disagree with this, or I agree with that, or whatever. You can send me a tweet. It doesn't matter what it's about. Please send me a tweet. There is a Facebook group. There's a Facebook group, and the link to the Facebook group will be down in the comment section below, or in the description bar, etc. There's an RSS feed for if you want to use this show. If you want to, how can I put this? If you want to listen to the show on any other app, please let me know which apps you want this included in, whether it's Stitcher, Spreaker, TuneIn, iTunes, or YouTube. I've got them covered. But there may be a podcast app that you're using that this podcast isn't available in. If that's so, let me know, and I will do my utmost to get this show into your earbuds. Now, there's a few podcast directories that I can't access for some reason. They won't let me in. They don't have a form submission or whatever. I'm doing my best to get involved and try and get them in. If you love the show, if you like listening to the show, if you want to help to grow, click like on all your social media where you find this podcast, through apps, through YouTube, etc. But then, maybe tell a friend. Maybe let me know how I can improve this show to the point where you go, oh, you've got to listen to this show. To your friends. If you're going to say, oh, you've got to listen to this podcast, it's brilliant. No, I need to know how I can improve. Any comments, criticisms will help me out immensely. I try to incorporate stuff as best as I can. Anyway, I'm running way over time. Thank you once again for tuning in each and every week. And I hope that this week and the rest of today is easy like a Sunday morning. Make sure it's not too sticky. Bye for now.